It's field trip time! We are going to the National Museum of Natural History, part of the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. This week we've been learning how fossils form. We learned that first, something has to die. Second, it has to be covered in sediment. And then third, over millions of years, the minerals in the environment replace the minerals in the bones, leaving behind fossils. So today we're going to see real fossils and dinosaurs in the Smithsonian. Let's look at our first exhibit. This is Dr. Kay Barensmeyer, a vertebrate paleobiologist at the Smithsonian. And she said that when something dies, its remains and traces of its life fossilize only if conditions line up just right. I learned that it's actually really rare for something to become a fossil. She says that so much depends on being in the right place at the right time that actually just a tiny fraction of all the plants and animals that ever lived left fossils. Everything else was recycled back into the earth or into other life forms. So if we look down here, we can see all these rhino bones and fossils. We see a jaw, teeth, leg bone, more teeth. And this diagram is going to tell us how they became fossils. So steps 1 and 2, the rhino dies. Step 3 is where bacteria and fungi decompose the flesh, leaving just the skeletons. That's important because over here she said that the hard parts like teeth and bones are actually the only parts that fossilize. Then the skeleton was buried, and it has to remain buried while sediment collects on top of the skeleton. Then, like we learned in our last lesson, minerals seep in, and minerals gradually fill spaces in the bones and teeth and turn them into fossils, which remain deeply buried and unchanged for millions of years. Then, as the continental plates move and shift, erosion brings those fossils back to the surface, where paleontologists are able to discover them. Now, I did want to show you something real quick. This is going to be our focus for next week. But you can see here, this is like a peak of the rocks underground. And can you guys see the stripes here? These are actually called rock layers. And next week, we'll be learning that we can determine how old a fossil is based on where in the rock layer we find that fossil. And we'll also be able to determine what type of environment that fossil lived in, again, based on the rock layer. But we'll get more into that next week. Our next exhibit is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Look at those teeth. I do have one terrible joke for you. What do you get when dinosaurs crash their cars? T-Rex. Okay, moving on. Our next exhibit, I thought this was really cool. This is called a Tylosaurus, and it was a giant sea predator, lived millions of years ago. If you'll notice here, they were able to find what was in this Tylosaurus's stomach when it died. And its stomach contents were also fossilized. So if you analyze those fossilized remains, you can tell what this dinosaur ate. And that's exactly what the scientists at the Smithsonian did. And it says, this rare fossil preserves stomach contents that show one part of a marine food web. The large bones of a plesiosaur, to your right, were found inside the rib cage of the Tylosaurus in front of you. They have tooth damage and pitting made by Tylosaurus's stomach acids. The smaller bones come from yet a third species, probably the plesiosaur's last meal. So we have the Tylosaurus here, ate this plesiosaur, and they ate something else. So we have 3 animals, 2 meals, and 1 fossil. Very cool. Now, in our next exhibit, we see a Stegosaurus, and we see a Ceratosaurus. Am I saying that right? Yes, Ceratosaurus. Okay, in our previous science units, we learned the difference between a body structure and then the function of that structure. So we're going to talk about that again. A structure is a part of something. So I'm noticing that the Stegosaurus has this cool body structure of a spike or a plate on its back. Now, the function of these spikes was to defend themselves from predators. Stegosaurus were nice, easygoing herbivores, and they needed protection from carnivores like this guy over here. Now, this guy's body structures included these long, sharp teeth and very sharp claws on their arms. Now, their function was offensive, okay? They weren't trying to defend themselves, they were trying to go out and hunt prey. So we have two different body structures used for two very different functions. Now here, I thought this exhibit was really cool because it shows Ice Age humans in the middle of two different animals. This is a mastodon, and then we have a saber-toothed tiger over here. Don't worry, I'll zoom in a minute. But these Ice Age humans were actually both predator and prey. Let's see if we can zoom in and read this sign. I know that the early Ice Age humans hunted mastodons, so they were the predator of the mastodons, but sometimes these humans were prey to large predators, perhaps even the saber-toothed tiger to your right. Today, we are the top predators, and we change the ecosystems we live in to meet our needs. So we can come over here and see the saber-toothed tiger. Very cool. And finally, this is a really cool exhibit showing a Tyrannosaurus Rex fighting and eating this Triceratops. So we can zoom in here and learn a little more about this fight. It says, King of the carnivores. In its time, Tyrannosaurus Rex was the largest meat eater in western North America. It feasted on dinosaurs large and small, including plant eaters like this Triceratops. Few, if any, animals could take down a healthy adult Tyrannosaurus. As the apex predator, the tyrant king impacted the entire community. Each meal Tyrannosaurus killed or scavenged helped keep populations of some species in check and provided leftovers for others. Okay, so we would call the Tyrannosaurus Rex a carnivore because it eats only meat, and the Triceratops would be an herbivore. It eats only vegetables. Now we can get some more information about them up here. Ooh, it says the Tyrannosaurus Rex was found in Montana. That's in the United States. And the Triceratops was found in Wyoming. So after I looked at this, when I was getting this video ready for you guys, I was trying to think what dinosaurs lived in New York State. So I did some research, and I learned that a long time ago, New York State was actually underwater, and it was covered with shallow seas. So unfortunately, there aren't any dinosaur fossils that have been found in New York State. But there have been a lot of marine and aquatic fossils. So things like coral can be fossilized, sea lilies, armored squid, giant sea scorpions. So no dinosaurs, but there were aquatic plants and animals as well. So let's come down here. This is basically like a shell. And then this is a cephalopod, and that's the same type of animal as like an octopus or a squid. I hope you enjoyed our field trip today. Your job is to go ahead and explore the rest of the museum, whichever exhibits you'd like, and then there are some videos for you to watch. Good luck and happy working!